Hello, and welcome to SoldOut presentation of Markstrat Project Report. This is the team composition. The team is made of Marco, Alessandro, Jacopo, Francesca, and Generoso. The agenda includes overview and competitive scenario, best decisions, worst decisions, learning points, and final recommendations to keep in mind. We'd like to start out with a brief overview of our brands and competitive scenario. As you can see, SPI evolution after 2 periods of investment and stagnation shows a sharp increase, fueled by the entrance in Bodites. After a head-to-head competition with Tiki Taka, eventually our team classified third. In terms of value market share, we managed to overcome the company's goal of 25%, which is the second of the industry. Such a result was obtained thanks to the management of an ending 4 brands portfolio. Every product achieved outstanding performance in its target segment. For shoppers, the lack of competition and high growth, coupled with the 2 brands strategy, allowed for a leadership position. However, the segment is characterized by relatively lower margins. In the high earner segment, despite the intense competition, the high margins and our huge investment enable us to benefit from a great cumulative contribution after marketing. As for innovators, the staggering margins coupled with the lack of competition determine the main drivers of our growth.
Talking about best decision. The best decision is about the introduction of a second brand in a shopper segment that has 3 positive effects. From a strategic point of view, the creation of a barrier to entry that make less effective any investment from competitors, discouraging them to enter. From an economic point of view, as the graph shows, after a certain amount, investment in advertising have diminishing marginal return. Having 2 brands allows you to split the advertising investment and therefore to have a higher cumulative marginal return. From a positioning point of view, by launching a new brand, we slow the ideal value evolution, thus avoiding to build a new R&D or to work a lot on advertising to change our brand perception. The second decision is about overproducing, that means having high inventory. On the one hand, it reduces risk of stock out, that means lost sales. We indeed never incurred in lost sales except in the last period. On the other hand, this choice is also profitable. When overproducing, you can experience a positive trade-off between gaining margin thanks to lower unitary cost and inventory cost. For instance, we intentionally overproduced Somo and this was clearly profitable for us. The graph here shows the positive trade-off between margin gain and inventory cost in Somo's situation in before. Overproducing too much is not okay, however, as inventory is not easy to handle and in general it should be done only when economy of scales are high, product sales are expected to grow and the base R&D project remains unchanged.
Talking about our worst decisions, we decided to put in evidence 2 errors both related to the R&D department. The first one can be defined as a blindness problem. Indeed, in the strategic marketing plan, we decided to adopt a brand classification where products were divided into 2 groups, high-end and low-end, depending on the target segment. In this particular case, the R&D project for the high earners will better fit the shopper's ideal value even if they belong to a different category. In particular, thanks to our analysis, the weighted standard deviation between the shopper's ideal value and the perceived features of the high earners R&D project was lower compared to the one of the post-soft project. Missing this opportunity, the business performances were negatively impacted, leading to lower market share, lower revenues, and ultimately a weaker position for targeting the shoppers in the future. In conclusion, the main takeaways are that the R&D department has to find the best product to fit ideal values, like the Pozzolo for the soft product, and to think outside the box in order to be proactive and flexible. The second example is related to the body market, and it can be defined as an overconfidence problem. Indeed, we plan to launch the brand for the follower segment, exploiting the first mover advantage. The unpredicted launch of a competitor's brand in the same segment 1 period before suddenly changed the ideal value trend. This event transformed our brand in a poorly positioned product not able to successfully enter in an already competitive market. Thus, the inability to launch it impacted our business performance, determining a huge loss in potential market share and a contribution after marketing in both P5 and P6. The main takeaway is that given a certain degree of randomness, every possible scenario should be taken into account in order to identify an effective plan B.
Considering the key learning points, let me start by emphasizing the importance of flexibility. Our strategy was characterized by a high level of inflexibility, as half of the budget of the first 3 periods has been allocated to Vodites. The high level of inflexibility turned out to be problematic and further emphasized by the competitive environment. In this regard, the market both in Sonnets and Vodites was highly polarized among two players, thus contributing to boost their budgets. Overall, the inflexibility of our strategy, coupled with a competitive environment, determined a difficulty in catching up and stealing market share. The graph, for instance, shows how even despite the huge investment in advertising, our team was not able to steal market share from an already established player. Those considerations shed a light on the importance of flexibility when facing the competition. As such, if we would still want to be first mover in Vodites, then R&D project for Sonnets should be postponed after the first period to adapt to competitor moves and enter in unexploited markets. Conversely, if we strive for an even greater level of flexibility, we should enter in Vodites only after having established a strong position in Sonnets. This, coupled with higher budget in the first period, would allow not to overcommit to the development of the first Vodite by allocating approximately 22% of the combined budget of the first 3 periods. Our second learning point is about R&D. More specifically, having the right project at the right time is crucial for success. By combining the goodness of the base R&D project with being first or second mover, we identify 4 product categories and their respective attractiveness. The latter has been assessed by considering 4 variables. Having a good R&D and being first mover is the ideal position to be in. Champions boost high score on all the variables. Those products can achieve a high market share without spending too much in advertising. In addition, they are able to influence the evolution of ideal values and sustain a long-term competitive advantage. Speculators are less attractive than champions as the competitive advantage is not sustainable in the long term. Moreover, greater advertising expenses are needed. Turtles are later movers. As such, to gain market share, they require greater investment in advertising. Finally, losers score low on all variables. As such, those products should be abandoned. Such a classification provides great insights on brand management when drafting the marketing plan. Considering our brands, both Solo and Somo were champions. The first required greater commercial team, as we'll see in the following slide, while the latter to anticipate its launch. Following such a reasoning, we can classify the remaining brands and define the necessary action fostering their success.
Our third learning point is about advertising and commercial team expenses. Due to scarce resources, they entail a trade-off of paramount importance to outperform the competition. On a general basis, a share of voice higher than the ones of competitors is key for having a successful brand. One should also consider diminishing marginal returns and the product life cycle. In this regard, the graphical exemplification illustrates how the trade-off might be solved according to the product life cycle. Moving from the introduction to the maturity phase, in order to maximize the contribution after marketing, the bulk of the budget should shift from advertising to commercial team. The allocation of advertising and commercial team should also take into account the market contestability. If it is low, market share are close to purchase intentions, and the level of competition is high. To steal market share, given a well-established product, the most effective lever is to increase commercial team size, while an increase in advertising seems to be less powerful, as outlined by the example based on our brand Solo in P5. If market contestability is high, market share are far greater than purchase intentions, and the level of competition is low. To protect the leadership given a well-established product, it's advisable again to increase commercial team size, and this is actually what we should have done with our brand Zeta. Having in mind this consideration, we will draft a marketing plan also considering commercial team as a strategic lever to gain or defend market share, and adjusting the allocation rule according to the product life cycle.
Now, we'd like to suggest some final recommendations. Usually, we believe that competitors will act in a certain way, that for us seems rational. However, they can surprise you, so be prepared. Flexibility allows to face randomness in the industry. Having a plan B makes your strategy valid in different possible scenarios. Striking the ideal values makes your R&D more expensive, but is totally worth it. Having a perfect R&D makes your position stronger in a segment, increasing barriers to entry. Greater budget means more advertising, R&D, and commercial team. This, in turn, fosters more budget for the following period. You want to have more budget to snowball your competitors. If you're targeting a segment, then focus all the investments on it. Having a product in the middle makes you weak in both segments. Finally, don't get influenced by sunk cost, as it's simple to make suboptimal decisions due to this bias. Finally, as the Godfather would say, I'll make you a vodite you can't refuse. Thank you for the attention.